What happens when a CEO decides to work the front door of one of his own restaurants and realizes someone else has been quietly cashing in? Silas Merton stepped out of the rideshare and stared up at the glowing sign of the restaurant. Number 13 out of 17. He owned every single one, inherited from his father 2 years ago. The restaurants were his responsibility. At 36, he was still learning what that really meant. He adjusted the pressed white shirt and cheap black slacks he bought from a department store. His beard was gone, his thick hair trimmed shorter than usual. Contacts instead of glasses. No one at this location had ever met him, and corporate never passed around his photo. Most just knew him as the owner's son. That was all they needed to know. He walked in and was hit with the usual sounds: cutlery, low music, and the buzz of conversation. The hostess stand was unattended. A couple stood awkwardly near it. "Hey, are you guys being helped?" Silas asked, stepping behind the stand. The man looked relieved. "No, we've been waiting like 5 minutes. We had a reservation, Mitchell, for 2? Silas scanned the tablet. No Mitchell on the list. "Strange," he muttered. "Let me get you seated anyway. Booth or table?" "Booth, please," the woman said. As Silas led them through the dining room, a sharp voice called from behind. "Hey, what are you doing?" He turned around. A young woman in a tight maroon dress hurried toward him, her eyes narrowed. "You can't just seat people. Who are you?" "I'm the new trainee," Silas said, keeping his tone calm. They were waiting. "I was in the back for 2 seconds, she said, brushing past him and taking over. "You're supposed to check with me first." "Got it," he said, stepping aside. "Didn't catch your name." "Olivia," she said quickly. "You're
Stan, right?
from corporate."
Yeah. Stan.
She didn't look convinced, but let it go. Silas spent the next hour shadowing Olivia at the front. She had a sharp tongue, but she knew how to work a room, flashing smiles, chatting up guests, and keeping the line moving. Still, something felt off. When a man in a polo walked in and said, "Reservation for Carter, $100 cash," Silas blinked. Olivia nodded like it was normal. "Yup, I got you. Right this way." Silas followed them to a table. Back at the host stand, he leaned in. "Was that a fee?" She rolled her eyes. "Priority seating. We're booked solid on weekends. People pay to jump the waitlist. Trust me, it's how things move here." "Does the manager know?" "He doesn't care," she said flatly. "He's barely around." Later, Silas checked the reservation system again. Still no Carter. No notes about cash payments.
No tracking.
Just names she scribbled in a notebook under the counter. He felt his chest tighten. He spotted Olivia slipping a folded bill into her handbag when she thought he wasn't looking. He stepped outside to breathe. Cold air hit his face. His jaw clenched. This wasn't just some side hustle.
It was theft.
And if it was happening here, how many other locations were losing money this way? Back inside, the dining room was packed. A young busboy was clearing a table with quick, nervous hands. Silas caught the name tag, Marcus. "You been here long?" Silas asked. 14 months, Marcus replied. "I do doubles most days. Manager doesn't like hiring extra staff. Says we're lean and strong." Silas frowned. "That why there's only one hostess on a Friday night?" Marcus gave a tired shrug. "That's how it's been since I got here." He paused. "You're not really a trainee, are you?" Silas looked at him. "Why do you say that?" "You actually care," Marcus said with a small smile. "Most people they send from corporate don't even look at us." Silas didn't say anything, just clapped him on the shoulder and walked off. He had work to do. And someone was about to get caught. Saturday morning came quiet and gray. The kind of morning that made people linger in bed, but by 8, Silas was already back at the restaurant, dressed in the same uniform, coffee cooling in his hand. He watched from across the street as the first kitchen staff slipped in through the side door, hoodies up, heads down. No one used the front entrance except guests. When he finally walked in, the dining room was empty, chairs still up, and the air smelled faintly of bleach and old fryer oil. The prep cook at the back waved, but didn't say anything. Silas nodded and made his way to the host stand, which was empty again. A clipboard hung on the wall with the daily schedule. He scanned it. Olivia wasn't due in until 4. Marcus was on a double again. No manager listed for the morning shift. Just a guy named Devlin scheduled for the evening. There was a quiet sigh behind him. Silas turned and saw a young woman tying her apron, hair in a tight bun, dark circles under her eyes. Her name tag read Rachel. "You knew?" she asked, voice hoarse.
Yeah.
"Just started yesterday." "Good luck," she muttered. "You'll need it." He followed her into the back, where the kitchen was already alive with motion. Steel pans clanged, and someone shouted for more onions. A line cook with tattoos covering both arms worked silently, focused. No one paid much attention to Silas. He found Marcus in dry storage, hauling a box of cleaning supplies onto a high shelf. "You always start this early?" Silas asked. Marcus grunted as he lowered the empty crate. "Today's a short one. Just 10 hours. That a joke?" Marcus gave a tired laugh. "Not really. Why stay? I need the job. And tips help when I get to run food, which isn't often." Silas leaned against the wall. "You ever think about leaving?" "I did.
Once.
But then I thought if I leave, they'll just get someone younger, cheaper. At least I know what I'm doing." There was a pause. "Last night," Marcus continued, voice lower, "you saw her, right? Olivia?" Silas nodded. "She's been doing that for months. No one stops her. Not Devlin, not corporate. She brings in money and they like that." "You ever tell anyone above her?" "I sent an email once. Got no reply. Then I stopped getting shifts for 2 weeks." Silas's expression didn't change, but the weight of it settled in his chest. "Thanks for telling me." Later, Silas took a spot near the bar and watched the floor staff set up for lunch. Rachel moved fast between tables, checking silverware, wiping down menus. She didn't speak much, but everything she did was precise. Another busser showed up, late and breathless, and Rachel didn't say a word, just handed him a rag and pointed him toward a spill. By noon, the place was half full. Silas offered to help run food. The kitchen was behind, and plates were stacking up under the heat lamps. He carried dishes, cleared tables, and kept his head down. Nobody questioned who he was. He was just another pair of hands, and they needed it. At one point, he saw Rachel at the server station, holding a receipt with a crease between her brows. "The system's off again," she muttered. Table 15's order vanished. Silas leaned in. "What do you mean off?" "It happens every other week. Orders just disappear. Devlin says it's a glitch, but then blames us when food's late." "Does IT know?" Rachel gave a dry laugh. "We don't have an IT guy. We have a sticker that says, 'Reboot if frozen.' That's our tech support." Silas made note of it. Another corner being cut. By 3, the dining room had thinned out. Silas sat at a booth near the window, wiping down the surface slowly. Across the room, Devlin finally arrived. Tall, dressed in a rumpled shirt and leather watch, he looked more like a guy who'd just rolled out of a brewery tour than a restaurant manager. He walked in laughing at something on his phone and didn't greet anyone. He walked past Marcus without a glance, then stopped by the bar and leaned over to talk to one of the bartenders, a woman with red lipstick and a long braid. They laughed. He stayed there for 10 minutes. Then Olivia arrived. She wore sunglasses indoors, slid them onto her head, and walked through like she owned the place. Devlin waved lazily. She didn't wave back. She didn't need to. Silas watched as she checked the reservation tablet, then quickly tucked her own notepad underneath it. She didn't say anything to Rachel or Marcus. Just went to the host stand and started tapping the screen. The first cash guest arrived at 4:20. A man in a blazer handed Olivia folded bills, and she gave him a big smile and wrote something in her book. Silas watched it unfold from the far end of the bar. Devlin walked past her, didn't even glance at the transaction. Then a family walked in, 2 parents, 3 kids, reservation for 4:30. Olivia barely looked at them. "There's been a delay," she said flatly. "You'll need to wait 20 minutes. But we had a reservation. There was a system error. Please wait over there." Silas watched the family sit near the window, kids restless, parents frustrated. 5 minutes later, Olivia seated a solo man in the booth meant for them.
Cash.
Again. By 6, it had happened 4 more times. Silas quietly asked Rachel how often this happened.
Every weekend, she said.
"We don't say anything anymore. Last time someone did, they got put on weekday lunch shifts, basically a sentence." "Who decides the schedules?"
Devlin.
"But Olivia helps him, which means she decides." Silas nodded slowly. At 6:30, a man with a limp and a cane came in alone. His jacket was too big, and he moved slowly. "Reservation for Halpern," he said, voice quiet. Olivia rolled her eyes. "We're running behind. Wait over there." "I called ahead," he said, confused. "I said wait." Silas stood up and walked over. "I'll seat you," he said. Olivia blinked. "Excuse me? He's on the list. He has a reservation. He's next." She opened her mouth but closed it again when she saw the look in his eyes. He led the man to a table near the window. Later, Rachel approached him near the soda station. "Why'd you do that?" "He had a reservation."
"Yeah," she said.
"But around here, that doesn't mean much." Devlin walked by, eyes on his phone again. Olivia was at the stand, laughing with someone. Silas stepped back, heart steady. He had seen enough. At 8:15, he pulled Marcus aside. "Can you cover for me at the host stand for 10 minutes?
Sure.
You okay?"
Yeah.
"I just need to take care of something." He walked out the front door and called his assistant. "Get me a meeting with the HR director first thing Monday. And send someone to pull 6 months of financial records from location 13. The voice on the other end didn't ask questions. Just said, "Yes, sir." Silas turned back toward the building. The lights glowed warm against the night. It was time to clean house. Sunday came, and Silas didn't go in. He spent the day in a quiet corner of his home office, poring over spreadsheets and reviewing flagged transactions from the past 6 months. The reservation logs were riddled with missing names, mismatched timestamps, and a wide gap between recorded table turns and actual guest traffic. Cash drawer reconciliations were consistently short on Fridays and Saturdays, always by small amounts, just enough to stay below the radar. By Monday morning, HR had assembled in a glass-walled conference room on the top floor of the corporate office. Silas walked in straight from the elevator, no briefcase, no notes, just a folder under his arm. Susan, the HR director, sat straight-backed, brows already drawn. Across from her was Ken, the regional manager overseeing 8 of the 17 locations, including the one Silas had just left. "I want Devlin suspended immediately," Silas said. "Effective today. Put someone from the training division in his place until we find a replacement." Ken blinked. "That's a big move. Mind telling me why?" Silas opened the folder and slid a stack of screenshots and printed receipts across the table. "He's either complicit in the cash skimming or grossly negligent. Either way, I don't want him leading a team." Susan flipped through the documents, jaw tightening. "And Olivia? She's been running a side operation for months. She pockets cash in exchange for table access, overrides the reservation system, and openly controls the schedule. She's out. Today." Ken leaned back, arms crossed. "You're sure? I watched it myself. I had guests coming in with confirmed reservations being pushed aside, while cash-paying walk-ins got seated. No oversight, no accountability. And your name popped up on the schedule approvals. Ken's posture shifted. I mean, I sign off what shows up. I don't monitor every shift. You will now, Silas said. Or you won't be here next quarter.
Silas stood.
I'm going back in. Today. He walked out before either of them could respond. By 4 o'clock, he was back in his trainee uniform, standing in the alley behind the restaurant. He waited until the kitchen door opened for a delivery and slipped in. The place was buzzing. Rachel was folding napkins near the expo line, sleeves rolled, hands moving fast. She looked up at him for half a second, gave a quick nod, and went back to work. This time, Silas didn't go to the host stand. He waited near the bar just out of sight. He didn't have to wait long. Olivia came in 5 minutes late, phone in one hand, iced coffee in the other. She didn't acknowledge anyone. She dropped her bag under the host stand and opened her notebook, her fingers flipping through pages like muscle memory. A couple entered, mid-30s, dressed for a night out. Olivia greeted them with a grin too wide, too rehearsed, and started writing in her pad before they'd even finished speaking. Silas stepped forward. Don't take another $1, he said. Olivia turned, startled. What? I said don't take another $1. She blinked. Why are you talking to me like that? Silas stepped around the host stand and pulled her notebook free from under the tablet. He flipped to the current page and held it up for her to see. This is a secondary reservation list. Not tracked by the system. Not approved. And not legal. She reached for the pad. You can't take that. I own this building. I own this business. And you've been stealing from both. That's when Devlin came from the back, drawn by the raised voices. He looked from Olivia to Silas and took a half step backward. Devlin, Silas said, voice level. You're done here. Devlin opened his mouth, but Silas cut him off. You've ignored staff shortages, failed to address misconduct, and let this place run like a game of favorites. I've got statements, receipts, and surveillance timestamps. You can defend your choices to corporate, but you won't do it from behind that bar. Devlin's face strained of color. Rachel had stopped folding napkins. She stood frozen with 2 menus in her hands, watching the scene unfold. Silas turned back to Olivia. You're finished as well. HR will be in touch. I suggest you leave now. Olivia laughed under her breath and shook her head. You're not a trainee. Silas met her eyes.
No.
I'm the person you thought would never show up. He stepped aside. Neither Olivia nor Devlin said another word. They walked out without looking back. Silas turned to Rachel. Can you hold the front until I get someone from corporate over? He asked. She nodded slowly.
Yeah.
I can do that. He moved through the restaurant, past tables of unsuspecting diners, and into the back office. The manager's desk was cluttered with half-empty energy drinks, unopened envelopes, and a calendar still turned to last month. Silas pushed the chair aside and powered up the computer. He opened the scheduling software and cleared the next 30 days. Then he called Marcus to the office. You're working doubles almost every day, Silas said.
Why?
Marcus shrugged. They kept cutting hours for other bussers. I was the only one left who could cover. I want you to help me rebuild this team, Silas said. Not just clear tables, but help train new hires, track the floor, and flag issues before they spiral. You're quiet, but you see everything. Marcus hesitated. You'd trust me with that? I already have. Marcus nodded, still processing. Silas picked up a pen and wrote a name on a sticky note. This is the person from HR who'll call you tomorrow. Your new pay rate will be in that conversation. And I want you on a more balanced schedule. Marcus left the office without saying much, but his steps were quicker. By the end of the night, Rachel had trained one of the barbacks to help with seating, and the mood on the floor had shifted. Servers moved with purpose, not panic. The kitchen still ran behind, but nobody yelled. Silas stayed out of the way, watching from a corner booth, quietly noting what worked and what didn't. He didn't speak again until closing. As the last chair was flipped and the lights dimmed, he gathered the remaining staff in the dining room. "I want to thank all of you who've stayed through the chaos," he said. "And I want to apologize that it took me this long to step in." Nobody said anything at first. Then Rachel spoke. "Is this a one-time thing?" she asked. "Or are you coming back?" Silas looked around the room. "No more distance," he said. "I'll be here. Not every day, I've got other stores to check. But I won't disappear again." There were quiet nods.
No applause, no chairs.
Just tired eyes that had seen too much and were waiting to see if this time would be different. Silas didn't promise them perfection. He promised them presence. And for a team that had been ignored too long, that was finally a start. By the following Friday, the restaurant's pacing had changed, but the structure was still under strain. Silas arrived just after 3. He didn't wear the trainee uniform anymore. He didn't need to. Staff now knew who he was and, more importantly, why he was there. He entered through the side door, nodding to the dishwasher, hauling out a bin of soaked rags. The air inside was humid with prep work and cleaning chemicals, and the kitchen hummed with early dinner prep. Rachel was at the service station, reviewing the updated reservation list on a tablet. The paper notebook was gone. She gave Silas a quick glance as he approached. "You said someone from corporate would come shadow the front today," she said. "Ellen should be here in 10 minutes, he replied. "She's from the training division. Strong background in operations. She'll help restructure the flow, but she's not here to take over your role." Rachel tilted her head. "So I stay." "You stay," he confirmed, "but we're going to take some pressure off you." She held his gaze for a second longer, then nodded once and turned back to the screen. One reservation flagged as a double. "I moved it to 8. "Good call," he said and moved on. In the back, Marcus stood near the walk-in fridge holding a clipboard. He was checking off deliveries, something he'd asked to take over to ensure no items were missing or shorted on arrival. Silas stepped beside him and scanned the list. "You're due for a title change," Silas said. Marcus didn't look up. "You mean like guy who never gets to leave at closing?" Silas chuckled once. "You've been acting in a support lead role all week. You're already managing logistics and mentoring the new hires. Let's make it official." Marcus lowered the clipboard. "Is that permanent?" "It is if you want it." There was a pause before Marcus nodded. "All right." Before Silas could respond, Ellen entered through the back. She wore a black blazer over a gray blouse, tablet in hand, steps sharp and efficient. She spotted him and came straight over. "I've read the internal report," she said without preamble. "Staffing levels are thin but recoverable. Front-of-house training is outdated. I'll start with the greeting protocol and move through guest management." "Good," Silas said. "Rachel's been holding the line, but she needs backup. I'll observe her first, then step in where needed." She moved toward the front, already scanning the layout. Silas walked the floor, checking tables for wobble tags and verifying that the reprinted menus had been distributed. Staff moved with more rhythm than a week ago, but the tension hadn't vanished. That was going to take time. By 5:30, the dinner rush began. The first complication came at 6. 2 couples arrived at the same time, both claiming the same table. Rachel was mid-conversation with a guest when Ellen stepped in. "I'll handle this one," Ellen said quietly. She approached both parties with calm authority, verified their reservations, and discovered the issue. The system had accepted both due to a manual override from earlier that day. Rather than argue, she comped drinks for the second couple and seated them at the bar until a second four-top cleared. Rachel watched from the host's stand, expression unreadable. When Ellen returned, she spoke plainly. "You handled that fast." "You would have done the same," Ellen replied. "Maybe, but I'd have hesitated." "Then we'll work on that," Ellen said. "You've got instincts." You just need a system to back you up. Rachel didn't respond, but she didn't look away either. Silas remained near the kitchen entrance, observing the timing between orders and table turns. He watched as Marcus moved from table resets to checking on backstock, never lingering anywhere too long. The new hostess, a college student named Priya, was slowly learning the rhythm under Rachel's guidance. She made minor errors seating a party too early, skipping a waitlist entry, but each time, Rachel corrected her with short, clear instructions. At 7, Silas stepped outside to take a call. It was Susan from HR. We concluded exit interviews with both Devlin and Olivia, she said. Devlin didn't contest the decision. Olivia threatened legal action, but she has no case, especially not after the financial inconsistencies. Any signs this was happening at other locations? Nothing concrete yet, but we're auditing the other front of house operations. Your visit exposed a systemic flaw in how we handle reservation integrity. Keep me posted. He hung up and returned inside. At 7:15, a man in a navy suit entered with a folded bill already in his hand. He approached the host stand, glanced around, and quietly slid the cash across the counter. Rachel didn't touch it. "We don't take cash for tables," she said, voice even. The man looked confused. "I've done this here before."
Not anymore, she said.
"Reservations are by system only. I can add you to the wait list if you'd like." The man hesitated, picked up the bill, and walked out. Ellen turned from a nearby booth and gave Rachel a nod. Later, in the break room, Silas found Rachel refilling her water bottle. "You handled that exactly right," he said. She exhaled slowly. "I thought he might make a scene."
He didn't.
Still felt weird. "You're resetting a culture. It's supposed to feel unfamiliar." She didn't respond right away. "You were right about Olivia. We all knew it, but no one thought it would ever change. It has. That's hard to believe until it sticks." "It will," Silas said. "Because we're not relying on silence anymore. You see something, you say it. You need something, you ask. That's the new line." She nodded once, then stepped out without another word. By 9, the dining room had thinned. Silas called the remaining staff together near the service bar. They gathered quietly: Rachel, Marcus, Priya, and 2 servers wiping sweat from their brows. He stood in front of them, sleeves rolled, arms crossed. "You've all carried a fractured team these past few months," he began. "Tonight, you held the floor with 1 fewer manager, 2 new hires, and a revamped system." No one spoke, but they were listening. "Starting next week, we're rolling out a new bonus structure tied to team performance, not just sales. Clean handoffs, accurate seating, minimal wait times. You work as a unit, you earn as a unit." One of the servers, a tall guy named Jalen, raised a brow. "Even back of house." "Especially back of house," Silas said. "We're not running separate kingdoms anymore." Someone in the back let out a soft laugh. Not mocking, just surprised. "I'm staying involved," Silas continued. "You'll see more of me in the coming weeks. I'll be at your side, not watching from a camera." He let that sit for a moment. Then he looked at Marcus. "You're officially stepping into the floor operations lead role," he said. "Effective immediately." Marcus nodded once, jaw tight. "To the rest of you," Silas added, "thank you. We're not done rebuilding, but tonight was a shift. A real one." He stepped back, giving them space. They didn't erupt into cheers. They didn't clap. But they didn't scatter either. They lingered.
Talked.
And for the first time in months, they didn't rush to the exit the moment the lights dimmed. The team wasn't fixed. Not yet. But it was real. And this time it had a chance.